What's going on, everybody? It's Rich Perez welcoming you back into another weekly dose of the rundown. We took some time off, but we are back. And of course, I am joined in with the 305s on Mr. Kane, Hurricane himself, Kayson Davis. How you doing, Kay?
Good, man. It's good to be back. Took a little week off, but it's good. Feels good to be back.
Definitely, man. A lot of things have happened. Football's back. If you are a fan of a New York franchise that isn't close to Canada, you are not feeling too happy. So let's get right into that. The New York Jets and the New York Giants are both sitting at 0-2 after week 2. The Jets have not looked good at all in either of their performances, losing 21-10 to the Buffalo Bills. It was 21-0 going into halftime. And then the Giants are 0-2. And if you're a Giants fan, you're not happy about losing, especially it's been 4 seasons of losing now. But I guess the one thing I could say about the Giants is in these 2 losses that they've at least been competitive, and that's kind of the thing we've talked about with what we want to see from them is that they're competitive in these games. Like against the Steelers, who are looking like a contender right now. They were extremely competitive in that game. It was close for a good amount of time. Even there was a point in that game where you thought maybe they could steal it away. And then against Chicago, they were down and everything. And then they unfortunately Saquon Barkley tore his ACL, and we got to get into that too. But they came back and put themselves in a position to win that game right towards the end.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, I think Daniel Jones looked good, especially in that first game. He got sacked a couple of times, but I think, like you said, the Giants, they've been competitive, and that's kind of all we've been asking for out of them. That's kind of what we wanted to see from them. We knew that they wasn't probably going to be a great team or anything like that. Maybe if they got lucky, maybe push for a playoff spot, but we know that that's probably a long stretch too. So we always wanted to see them be competitive. So like you said, them being competitive these first 2 games was really good to see. As for the Jets, it's kind of, like you said, they haven't been competitive. So I wonder kind of what they're going to do there. With the Giants too, it's like you said, Saquon Barkley being out now is going to be interesting to see kind of how that kind of shifts their offense and things they're going to do, because he's basically going to be gone for the season. So that's a big part of like what they do. And it might probably going to put more pressure on Daniel Jones to kind of do some more. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go from here and how competitive they can be without Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, definitely. We saw he's a lot of people are saying don't count him out. And he said it's going to be one hell of a story. It's tough to see. It was a season ending, but he had an injury last year to sideline him for a few weeks, and now he's done for a whole season. And it's tough too, because going into that game, that was the first time in Daniel Jones' very early career that he had all of his starting weapons available to him. Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Golden Tate, and Saquon Barkley all on the field at the same exact time for the first time. And, just a couple plays into the game, he tears his ACL. So that it's tough to see. The Giants did sign Devontae Freeman, former Pro Bowl running back, to a 1-year deal worth $3 million to, kind of compensate themselves for, not having Saquon Barkley in there now. So, we'll see how things go from there. The thing I guess I see, we were kind of wondering exactly what it's going to look like with Joe Judge, and I can credit him in saying that, he's made, we see the influence he's had on this team through those tough practices that we've heard about them. He's making guys run laps for mistakes and stuff like that. They really are fighters. They go out and fight. So like I said before, that's we didn't expect this to be a winning season for them, but we wanted to see that from them. Are they going to be competitive in games? And through two weeks so far, that's what they've looked like. The other thing is Jason Garrett. There's been some things there that I can critique from both Garrett and Joe Judge. I think they haven't been aggressive enough in certain things. Like there was like, certain points in these 2 games that, you expect there. It's like fourth and 5 and things like that. You're saying they should go for it on 4th down, and they don't. Kind of settling for field goals instead, or just punting the ball. So Joe Judge is a rookie head coach. He's never been in this position before, so you want to give him some time. But, aside from that, I even kind of like what I've seen from Jason Garrett's offense. Now, Daniel Jones, I think you can see the improvement there as well. The one thing I can say is he hasn't it's not terrible like last year, but the fumbling issue is still there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for a young quarterback, it's just something he's probably gonna have to adjust to. And then I don't. I think I seen like the first game, he kind of got sacked a lot. So I think maybe the O line maybe could maybe do a little better for him, or he may have to do a better job of maybe scrambling and kind of creating plays. So he did maybe he's not getting hit as much, so maybe he's not causing as many fumbles and things like that. But for a young quarterback and with Jason Garrett in there and things, you hope that's something that can probably change for the future, but he's still young, and then I guess the team is not that great. So maybe that's something you think could probably get fixed.
Yeah, I mean, it begs the question: Is Dave Gettleman's job safe even in a losing season? Because they do look competitive, but they're still not winning games. Now, he's put a lot of emphasis on the offensive line since getting this job. This is his third year. The offensive line still isn't good. So, what exactly do we expect for Dave Gettleman and his job security moving forward if the season continues to go this way?
I don't know. It's kind of something I was just thinking about because, like you said, we wasn't expecting them to make the playoffs. We wasn't expecting them to be no great team. We just wanted to see them be competitive. And so far, they've been competitive. So if they keep it up as the season goes on, how much do we kind of give that to Dave Gettleman and kind of give him another shot? I know we kind of talked about this on here a lot, how we feel like he's on the hot seat. So if he's on the hot seat and they kind of gave us what we wanted to, I think, like you said, he's going to have to come down to those kind of the small things. Like, yeah, we were competitive, but like you said, the offensive line is still not there. That's something he's been on for the last couple of years. So you still might be able to kind of maybe give him credit, but still kind of maybe still critique him on the things that he maybe hasn't done right. So maybe it's his job is still on the line if you really break it down. But I think you probably have to break it down and look kind of more than just how the team did.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the other thing to think about there too is, if you are, we talked about this on the show as well. If you are going to move on from him, you have a coach that you just hired and you're about to pair him with a new general manager. So that's just another thing where it's going to kind of be weird and, exactly how does this work out?
Yeah, definitely. I think they're going to have to maybe we thought it was weird last year. We thought they should have just got rid of both of them. I think going forward, you're just going to have to, if it's going to be, you don't want to fire that coach that you just got. So it's going to be interesting. I think they're going to have to get a coach that is kind of on this. I mean, not a coach. They're going to have to get a GM who's on the same page as the coach. So you think you keep that coach going forward. So to get him for 1 or 2 years and kind of get rid of him just wouldn't be great. So I think from here, if they do get rid of Gettleman, I think they try to get a GM who's kind of going to maybe be on the same page as the coach and want to keep the coach going forward and things like that. So they don't have to kind of switch gears again after having a coach for 2 years.
Yeah, most def. And, getting back to that other side of New York with the New York Jets, that team just looks all out of whack, from every phase of the ball. Adam Gase just has that team looking lost. And, even with him having that team looking lost, ownership is still right behind him. I think it's fair to kind of criticize Sam Darnold as well. Sam Darnold going into that draft was regarded by a lot of professionals as the best quarterback talent in that draft, even though he ended up being the second quarterback off the board. And so far in this stage of the game, he definitely doesn't look the best. And, I don't think he's looked second best either, maybe not even third. But, I mean, I think from what I've seen from him is that he shows glimpses of being a good quarterback, but I don't know. I haven't seen anything from Sam Darnold that says franchise quarterback, and this is his third year in the league. Right now, his ceiling might just be starting quarterback.
Yeah, definitely. I can see what you're saying. And he has Le'Veon Bell with him, which is like a running back who can kind
Le'Veon Bell just got hurt. I'll give him that, though. He doesn't have any weapons there. They drafted Denzel Mims out of Baylor. He hasn't played a single game yet. Um, because he's dealing with an injury. Le'Veon Bell gets hurt. He's going to be sidelined for a few weeks. They really don't have any viable weapons at receiver, but that's what I kind of mean about franchise quarterback. Great quarterbacks elevate guys. We see it from Russell Wilson. We see it from Aaron Rodgers. At a point in Tom Brady's career, we saw it from him. And that's just something that we haven't seen from Sam Darnold.
Yeah. I think this might be a crucial year for him going forward. I think he's going to kind of have to show out. I know last year he missed a lot of games because mono and things like that. But like you said, Le'Veon Bell just got hurt, but he had Le'Veon Bell for a couple of games. So that's someone that can kind of relieve pressure off, like a great running back and relieve pressure off a quarterback. So I think this is going to be a big year for him. I think he's going to kind of have to show up for the rest of this year if he kind of wants to keep that job. If not, I think the Jets maybe, like you said, should start looking forward and maybe to getting a new quarterback, because like you say, he might not just be that franchise quarterback that they're looking for. And like you said, it's kind of unfortunate because coming into the draft that he was thought to be one of the greater quarterbacks. And it'd be interesting. Maybe a change of scenery might be great for him. Maybe getting out of New York might work out for him. So, or you can try to keep on to, and maybe you hope that change kind of happens in New York. But it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. I think this year, like I said, the rest of this year is gonna be crucial for him.
Yeah, I mean, you're not the first person to bring up the change of scenery too. I'd be interested to kind of see what that would do to his psyche if he were to get traded. But here's the interesting thing, because I mean, number one, if you're to move on from him, you're not going to get a haul of picks for him with the way he's looked, right? Josh Rosen gets traded after his rookie season. He got traded, for like a second round, not even a second round pick, a later round pick. And now he's on his third team. So that it's going to be interesting to see what goes there. But the other question, that you want to see with that you bring up, not you specifically, but that's brought up with Adam Gase still getting backing from ownership. Like the Jets could have a top 2 pick in the draft, and the two quarterbacks everybody's talking about is Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson and Justin Fields out of Ohio State. Two guys that we're talking about them being neck and neck in the Heisman race. They've been close as far as skill level goes and competition, dating back to them coming out of high school. Do you move on from Sam Darnold to take one of these two quarterbacks? And also, should you? Because it seems like the Jets situation is just so bad that it doesn't matter who the quarterback is.
That's an interesting point now that you bring that up. I think maybe, like I said, it's going to be a crucial year for him. So depending on the rest of this season goes, I think maybe it's something you really should consider. I think, like you said, they also don't have weapons. So maybe you take that second pick or first pick or however it may end up for them and kind of trade that for maybe some more weapons on the receiver or something like that if you can. But I think it might be time to move on from him, like I was just saying in my last point. He's been there for 3 years. It kind of has been working out. Maybe a change of scenery. I know last year he had mono. Maybe just too much New York party. You know how that New York media can get to you. New York party it can get to you. So maybe the New York life might be just a little too much for him.
Yeah, we could see. They could also go the route that Chicago went, and it's tough to say because of the quarterbacks that are in this draft. But they could go the route that Chicago went and say, we're not going to pick up your option. You're going to have to come into the season and see how everything goes for you. Like what Chicago did with Mitch Trubisky, and Trubisky is now 2-0 as the starting quarterback for the Bears, winning that job over Nick Foles, and kind of see how it goes from there. But it's definitely something to monitor with this upcoming draft.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they could do that too. Maybe try to boost his draft stock. Maybe if he has a good year, and then maybe if they take Trevor Lawrence, say Trevor Lawrence is the spot, you keep him, not pick up his option. Maybe that kind of, like you said, makes him have a better year and things like that, and maybe boost his draft stock and kind of maybe try to get more for him at the trade deadline, or maybe you try to keep him. So that'd be interesting. That point you just brought up too is a good point. They can kind of do something like that. I think that could end up working out for him, but maybe not working out for him because he ends up playing bad. You might end up getting nothing for him. If he ends up playing good, that then brings do you keep him? Do you try to trade him while his stock is high? Things like that. But it depends. Do you want something for him, or do you want to kind of roll the ball and see if you can get something out of him? Like what? Like to get something out of him, like trade wise, to boost his trade value, or get something out of him, like you said, bringing in competition to kind of boost the stock. So, but if it goes the opposite way, it might not work out for them. They losing for nothing. But if you do have someone like Trevor Lawrence, maybe losing for nothing, kind of, it's not that bad of that big of a deal.
Definitely something to monitor. We will see. But we are on the topic of quarterbacks, my man. What have we been talking? There's been a couple quarterbacks we have been talking about going into this season. Tom Brady with the Tampa Bay Bucks and all them weapons they got over there. Cam Newton getting that job in New England when they tried to make it seem like Jarrett Stidham might be on his heels, and Jarrett Stidham's not even the backup quarterback in New England, by the way. That would be Brian Hoyer. And then somebody that we didn't talk about, but we should. No, we talked about him a little bit, just not in recent episodes, and that is Drew Brees. So, with that being said, I want to start with Cam Newton. Superman's back. That he's 1-1 now with the New England Patriots. He looks just as good as he did during that MVP season, if you ask me. And he was this close to being 2-0 going, that game was right down to the wire against the Seahawks on Sunday Night Football. Now, they still have pretty much the same weapons that they had when Tom Brady is, but if we go and rewind, I said I personally believe the New England Patriots will be better with Cam Newton than they were a year ago with Tom Brady. I feel like I've seen that so far. Not only that, but I'm going to add Tom Brady into the mix and say he's 1-1, but in that game against the Saints in his Tampa debut, he looked like a 43-year-old quarterback. I know they were able to get a win last week, albeit not against a contender, but the Tampa Bay Bucks pretty much look like what I thought they were going to look like, even with those weapons. And New England looks like about what I thought they were going to look like with Cam. What have you seen?
Yeah. I think I like what I've seen from the Patriots and Cam. I kind of talked about it on here. Like I think that him being motivated to kind of get back to his MVP self, not wanting to leave Charlotte and things like that. To me, I kind of didn't disagree with your point when you brought it up before. It was just I wanted to see how things kind of gel. Like I said, I thought they had to take some time to adjust to each other. I think what's kind of a thing that's good looking forward for them is, like I said, they're still adjusting to each other. And for them to kind of play this well, I think this is just great kind of going forward for them. I think there definitely should be a team to watch out. I think you kind of maybe hit it right on the head because with my point, I think as time goes on and they adjust to each other more and things like that, I think they only should get better as the season goes on. So if they're looking this good to start, I really like what I've seen from Cam and the Patriots. As far as Tampa Bay, I think that first game is kind of interesting because they go up against New Orleans, and New Orleans is a team that's New Orleans, they've been the title contenders for the last couple of years, and they kind of been together for the last couple of years. So that's kind of a veteran team that's been together. So I think that's an interesting challenge to be your first game for a team that kind of not all kind of just came together, but to have a new quarterback, Gronk coming back, and still kind of bringing people along with the team and a lot of new people. So I think that's kind of an interesting game. So I'm not going to give Tom Brady too much of a pass, but I'm going to give him just a little bit of a pass for them. It's a newer team going against kind of a team that's been together for a while. So he, like you said, he is kind of showing his age a little bit, but I think as time goes on and maybe kind of the same thing with the Patriots, as they maybe get used to each other and things like that, maybe things will change. But like you said, he's showing his age a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season develops.
It definitely will, man. I got to check the schedule to see who they're playing next week. But like I said, man, he is up in age. He is who he is. Let's talk. And, hey, he's great. He's first ballot Hall of Famer, everything, 6-time Super Bowl champ. We get all of that. But, Father Time is undefeated. That's all I've been saying, and I don't think it matters at that point who you have surrounded, who you're surrounded by. Now, I do want to get into Drew Brees, who helped hand Tom Brady his first loss of the season. And he played on Monday Night Football last night. They lost. And he is somebody who's starting to show his age as well. Not just that, but if we go back to last season when he got hurt and Teddy Bridgewater went in there and went 5-0 as a starter, I had been saying it, and I believe, if I'm remembering right, I think you agreed with me a little bit as well. I felt that they should just move on from Drew Brees because of where he was at that point in his career and go to Teddy Bridgewater. They decided to bring Drew Brees back. They're saying Taysom Hill is also their guy of the future. I don't agree, but I'm not getting paid to make those decisions. And then they signed Jameis Winston to be their backup quarterback, which also says something about Taysom Hill, but we're not going to get into that. Now, Michael Thomas, arguably one of the best, not arguably, is one of the best receivers in the league, arguably the best receiver in the league, gets hurt in that game against Tampa. And you could say it's because Sean Payton decided that he wanted to run up the score, and that's what contributed to that injury. This is his go. This is Drew Brees' go-to guy. You go into week 2 against the Las Vegas Raiders. They lose this game after going up early. He didn't really have a go-to guy in that game without Michael Thomas. He wasn't really pushing the ball downfield that much, more checkdowns and everything. Starting to look his age. So was New Orleans right to stay with him? This is a guy who was thinking about retiring. He already has a TV deal in place for when he does retire. And are they done? Like, can New Orleans get to another Super Bowl before Drew Brees' career is up? Because they have the talent.
I think that is what's going to determine if what they did was the right move or not. Because you think about it, Teddy Bridgewater may be is a young quarterback, maybe on up. He played good for them last year. You like you said, we might want to keep him and kind of switch over. We kind of talked about it on here a lot. It's usually great quarterbacks don't end their career with the same team. So, and if that's the case, for him, if he gets them to another quarterback and they another Super Bowl and they win the Super Bowl, then you say, hey, the team, they've been, like I was just saying, they've been together for a while. They've been almost right there. They lost in the conference finals.
3 years in a row they've lost. In the last year was not the wild card game, but the divisional game. They lost to the Vikings, which that was crazy. Then the year before that, they lose to the Rams to get to the Super Bowl, and that was the whole crazy thing. It's always been a crazy thing with them. Then the year before that, they lost to the Vikings. The Minnesota Miracle. Yeah. So it's always been something.
Yeah, so they always feel like they're right there. So they probably feel like if you bring him back and you can squeeze maybe a Super Bowl out of him maybe in the next couple of years. So I think that will kind of determine if it was the right move. If they end up going out kind of how they've been going out recently, then you kind of think maybe it was time to make a change, especially because how the last couple of things have went. You think maybe all right, it's time to make it. They should have made the change before it's too late. They said that, like you said, Hill's their quarterback for the future, but they bring in what's his name? I forgot. Yeah, Jameis Winston. They bring in Winston, so that's kind of like, is he really your quarterback of the future? So I guess maybe they think they're going to bring Winston along. So if it doesn't work out, then you have Winston, who we talked about on here before, is kind of like a great bad quarterback. He's like a great but bad quarterback at the same time. So you think learning under him for a couple years, you give him the reins, and then maybe he can take it on. But I think it's going to determine if they get that Super Bowl out of him. If they get that Super Bowl out of him, then you think like, okay, it was smart to bring the team back because we lost on a couple crazy things these last couple of years. Like, we're right here for winning the Super Bowl. You kind of don't want to maybe blow it up then. And then they still have Jameis Winston, which also, if the Super Bowl thing doesn't work out, if Winston ends up working out, then you probably think like you gave him a couple of years to learn under Drew Brees and things like that. So those may be the two things to me that maybe would determine if it ends up working out. If those two things don't work out, then it's kind of like maybe you should have moved on, especially if Teddy Bridgewater ends up becoming a superstar out in Charlotte.
Well, I think Teddy as of right now, Teddy Bridgewater seems like a bridge quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. They don't really have anybody that's gonna supplant that job from him. Maybe in a draft in the future. But, as of right, he could be their guy, but I feel like as of right now, he might just be a bridge guy for them. On the other side of that, here's another question for you. If things continue to look this way, and it's not like it's dire, it doesn't look terrible. They're 1-1. They did actually look pretty good when Michael Thomas was on the field and everything. But if things start to really look bad, do you say, hey, Drew, we're going to make the switch over to Jameis from you and see how this goes? Because, I'm so, like, Jameis is historically great and also historically bad. And the reason for him going over there was kind of to learn from a great offensive mind in Sean Payton, as well as a great quarterback in Drew Brees, kind of like what they did for Teddy Bridgewater's career in the 2 years that he was there in New Orleans.
To me, it's gonna have to be what they seen from Winston in practice. Like if he's going crazy in practice and things like that, and like you said, Drew Brees is kind of looking like he's declining a little bit. I think that may make him think like, okay, maybe we should make the change. But I think at this point and kind of what we've seen from him, I think they're just gonna kind of maybe ride Drew Brees. I think it'd have to get really bad to the point where like maybe they're not gonna make the playoffs. But I think, like you said, with Michael Thomas being out and things like that, they might chop it up to factors like that. Okay, you don't have your best wide receiver out there and things like that. So they probably figured when Michael Thomas comes back, things will kind of get back to normal. But I think it'd have to look real, real dire for them to kind of go against Drew Brees. And I think Winston would have to show that he's been kind of killing in practice for them to kind of really make the switch. But I think at this point, I think the Saints kind of showed us that they're going to ride Drew Brees maybe until the end and kind of maybe ride him into the sunset if it goes good or if it goes bad. But I think, like I said, it have to go really, really bad, and Winston have to show me really, really good things. And I think even still, then they'll still wait until Michael Thomas comes back, because you think Drew Brees, when he gets his best receiver back, it should probably up his game a little bit. So I think it'd be interesting to me if he really. I don't think that he'll make that switch before any of that happens. Just to me.
Hey, we'll see. We'll definitely see. I don't think it's dire. This is the stuff I want to pose. I don't think it's not dire enough. Where he looks terrible. We got to move on from it. It's not that, but we're starting to see the signs there. And this was something that we were talking a little bit about a year ago. So, we'll go on from there. We're getting the hoops now. Before we get straight into these recaps, because we got a lot, we're gonna get into some news. So we can start first with the fresh news that just broke a couple of hours ago. And we brought it up here, after Billy Donovan and Oklahoma City parted ways. He was getting a look in Chicago. We talked about it a little bit, the possibilities if he were to get the job. Well, it's not possibilities anymore. Billy Donovan is the next head coach of the Chicago Bulls. He was sold on a young, talented roster, which they are, and the things he's able to do there. So Mr. Oklahoma City himself, how do you feel about the former head coach of the Thunder taking this job with the Chicago Bulls?
I'm interested to see if maybe that job was lined up for him already. Because you think about it, him leaving OKC was it was kind of random. A lot of people kind of didn't see that coming. And for him to land this Bulls job, I think if he's sitting there looking at it on paper, it's like, okay, this Thunder team is maybe going into a rebuild the next couple of years. We talked about how the Bulls have a lot of talent, maybe can make the playoffs, maybe even next year. They're going to have another high pick this year. I think that's in the lottery. So you think I think their starting five is solid. So he's thinking like, maybe if I get over there with those guys, that may look like a better job right now. So I think that may be a factor of why, like, maybe he decided not to come back. He probably looked over in Chicago like, okay, this job's out there, and it might be a great job for me. Now, as far as fit-wise, it's going to be interesting to me because like I said, I think when he had a team where the pressure was on them, where like maybe they could be contenders when they were like with PG, Melo, Russ, and things like that, I think he kind of folded it. I still think that in the playoffs sometimes he kind of struggles to make adjustments. But I think he showed us this year, like with a young team that young up and coming team, a team that doesn't really have a superstar, a team that can really move the ball, kind of like a college team where he was able to win his two national championships. So I think that kind of really maybe is something that is good for him, something that's like a perfect job for him. So I think over in Chicago, he might be able to do a good job. I think like I said, if you just look at this year and what he was able to do with those young guys and even CP, I mean, they're not going to have a CP, but Zach LaVine is a talented young guard that's coming up in this league. So I think it'll probably be a good fit. I think I want to say it's better than Oklahoma City, but I think maybe for him it's better than Oklahoma City because it's like this team they're in the East. That's one thing. They have a chance to make the playoffs. They have maybe a little more talent than Oklahoma City has right now because you think CP is probably about to get traded and things like that. So for him, I like the move for him. I think the fit might be good for him too. A nice young team. A lot of them are young. Like I said, kind of reminds him like a college feel. So he can probably get the same thing out of those guys that he got out of this year's team and maybe some of his college teams.
Yeah, I mean, and the criticisms of him are still real. Some people don't view him as much of an X and O's coach. So it's going to be interesting to see what he's able to do there with those young guys. I know you got a guy like Zach LaVine who's been in the league for some years now. He wants to win. He's put it out there that he wants to win. And Chicago fans, I'm sure, are in, a frenzy about trying to win. They're a historically great franchise with all the years of Michael Jordan. You're in a big city market as well. Chicago basketball in Chicago is the real deal. We have debates all the time off air about what's the greatest basketball city. Whether it's L.A. or it's New York or it's Chicago. All justified, by the way. So it's
What
definitely going to be interesting to see that. Would you say?
Now, one thing I will say about that, though, he's going into a whole different media market. Oklahoma City and Chicago are two different media markets. It's going to be a bigger media market. So it's going to be interesting to see how he kind of handles that. I know he was at Florida and they had those two national championships, and there was a lot of media for him at that time. But Oklahoma City, that small market team, even though with those superstars that he had, that Chicago media market is going to be a lot different. So I wonder how patient they're going to be with him. And then just things like that. I think Chicago has shown us over the last couple of years that they're not trying to hit it out the park with no big time names over there. After Tom Thibodeau left, I think we got Fred Hoiberg and things like that. So I think they kind of like these young, kind of maybe no name coaches. I think Chicago can kind of go, not no names, I shouldn't say that, but kind of like not the bigger names. I think Chicago can kind of go out there and get like a big name coach to go over there and coach in that media market.
Yeah, most def, man. Was he in Florida when Urban Meyer was there?
I think so.
I want to
I don't
look
think
into that because if that's true, man, what a time! If you was a student at Florida during that time, man.
I don't think they were winning national championships around the same time. I think when did Florida win it, like 05? Am I wrong? That's the football
The
team.
basketball team,
No, the football team.
the football team.
I
Of
know
all,
I think basketball was like 07, 08, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm not sure what year the football teams were winning. I think like the football teams won, and then the basketball was like back to back.
I'm pretty sure it was. I know no, because it was after that. Because Aaron Hernandez was on those teams, and he was on the Patriots team during the 2011 season. That's like when he was like fairly new too. So
So yeah.
their national titles.
So it might have been at the same time. You might be right. Yeah, it must have been a crazy time to be in Florida at the University of Florida. It was probably over there. Because I think the basketball team was like 08, 09. I'm
That was
looking
when I
right
know
now.
that was when because that was early because like no I know Noah and uh
Uh,
he what's this dude's he plays for Sacramento now. He played for Oklahoma
Corey
City.
Brewer.
Yeah,
Corey
Corey
Brewer.
Brewer was on the team. Joakim Noah was on that team. So their national wow.
Oh wait, no, Florida. It was 2005 and 2005, 2006, and 2006, 2007. So what I
So
say,
yeah, around the
2008.
same time.
That's
Yeah,
for
look,
that's for basketball. Did you look up the football one?
football.
Basketball
So
was
football was well, Florida's 40 bowl games. 2006 and 2008.
yeah, they won in 2005, 2006, and 2006, 2007.
Wow. So if you was a student at Florida during that time, man, I love to talk to you, get some stories.
I was about to say that. I know there has to be a reporter that covered those teams that's somewhere in the industry right now. We need to link up with you.
Yeah.
We want to hear we want to hear the
Yeah.
stories because that sounds like just covering those teams sound like a great time.
Just being in that atmosphere, I would have loved to be a student during that time. Like that's man.
Yeah, they were spoiled.
Yeah, I was in middle school, high school, so I was a little too young. But hey, what are you gonna do? Um, the other new fresh news out there is that Mike D'Antoni, whose contract was up with the Houston Rockets, let them know that he would not be trying to renegotiate with them. He was going to go into free agency, look other ways. So he's parted ways with them, currently looking for a job. I've seen his name come up with the Philadelphia 76ers. I've seen he's also been like a favorite to land the Indiana Pacers job. We'll see how that goes. I think if you're Philly, you should stay clear from him, especially if you're going all in on the Simmons Embiid combination. Indiana would make a little more sense to me if you're going to keep Oladipo there, already having that, guard pair, him and Malcolm Brogdon with the other pieces. I think that system, especially in the Eastern Conference that he kind of likes to run, could be successful there. Not really picking them to, win a title, everything, but I think they could make a run under him. Um, and then on the Houston side, I feel like what he did worked, and we're gonna talk about that, in our recap going into the Western Conference Finals with the Lakers and the Nuggets now. But I think what he did, worked in the sense they didn't win a title, which was the goal, but they had a ton of success doing it. And I know they don't want to get away from small ball, which was tremendous in exactly what he was trying to run. But it's with him gone now. I want to see like what's the effect on Houston.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think like we saw last year that he might not be back. They wasn't able to work out a contract extension and thing like that. I think this year he kind of maybe looked at the market and see there's a lot of jobs out there. Like you said, there's Philly, there's Indiana, and he's been named for a couple of those jobs. So he's probably like he's been in Houston for maybe 4 or 5 years now. They've had a lot of different teams. They had chances of winning and things like that. So I think really at this point, his time in Houston may just be up. He kind of maybe did everything that he can probably do there besides win the championship. So I think for him, it's kind of good. There's a lot of jobs out there. Like you said, I still think Philly should stay away from him, even though I think he may be able to convince Philly a little bit because you think about what he's been able to do for people offensively. If he comes into a meeting and tells them everything he can get, maybe out of Ben Simmons and maybe get him to shoot the ball and things like that, it may convince them to want to do it. But I still think that Philly should stay away from it, like you said. Indiana would be a good.
No, no,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead. I'll make my point when you're done.
Now I was gonna say Indiana. I think Indiana would be a good fit for him. And as far as Houston, like you said, I don't know. Kind of, I seen a lot of names out there. I think Houston, like you said, small ball worked. I think they need to do a little combination of both. I think they should try to get someone there. Maybe that's maybe
Agreed.
a stretch big, maybe who can still block shots and things like that. Or maybe just get another big in there to play a couple minutes and get Harden back in those kind of pick and rolls, and maybe Westbrook back in those kind of pick and rolls that they kind of love so much too, instead of just all ISO. And even someone a big that can kind of maybe trust the floor, who's also tall, maybe like I can't think of someone that's maybe like 6'10" or up that can block shots and kind of stretch the floor. So we're gonna get into Houston thing a little later, but I think Houston will kind of be all right. Maybe a change of scenery. Like I said, Mike D'Antoni's been there for a while, so maybe he's done all that he can do. The small ball did kind of work. I still think they should stick to it, but like I said, you just gotta maybe add another big into it where maybe you can, like I said with Anthony Davis, go big and kind of maybe still stay small.
Yeah, I mean, I think for them, like you want to tweak it. I actually felt like they kind of should have, copied a little bit of what Golden State was doing. Make that your closing lineup, if anything, or your go-to lineup in certain moments of the game, instead of going all in. But they had a ton of success with it when they did. When they did do that. Now on to the Philly point. Yeah, he could have a valid point, but two things. Number one, they don't have as currently right now. I know they're gonna look for this, but right now they don't have shooters over there like that. They don't have snipers. They don't got the assassins, anything like that. Now Ben Simmons, yes, he could convince them that he's gonna make Ben Simmons shoot the ball more, but Ben Simmons actually has to shoot the ball. So as of right now, that's not his game, and with that not being his game, and the pairing of him and Joel Embiid just don't see how that would work. Now, I'm going to switch a little bit here in saying that what we talked about last time, and we didn't get into it too much, but we talked about it, was Ty Lue was in contract negotiations with Philly to get the job. Those talks did stall, and I think that actually should be the job for him. He's somebody I think would be in the perfect sense for the Philly job, only because I always go back to 2016 NBA Finals, Game 7, halftime. They're in the locker room. It's a story that's going to go down in history. It's close game. LeBron's having a very good game. Kyrie's having a very good game. Ty Lue in that locker room, while LeBron is playing well and it's a close game, goes at LeBron, checks him. You're not doing enough. You need to do more. LeBron goes back at him, and he doesn't back down, and the rest is history. I think when you have two guys like Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons who are young stars, yes, they haven't accomplished anything, but, they're a little big-headed because they are young stars. You need someone like that who has done it. He has the credentials already where you're not going to say, who are you? And he's shown the ability. He went at, the best in the game, the face of the league. So he's definitely gonna challenge these guys more than anything. And when you got a guy like Embiid who, needs to get his diet in order and make sure that he's in shape and Simmons, who needs to work on his jumper and shoot it consistently, he's the guy that's going to make sure that that happens.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with a lot of things you said. I just think I don't know what Philly is thinking. You know, a lot of people said that Ben Simmons is basically a jump shot away from being LeBron, which basically means he's a jump shot away from them winning the championship. So I would just say on the Mike D'Antoni point, like if someone comes in and says, "Hey, I've been turning people into shooters for years," they're probably gonna look and be like, "Wow, that's what we're missing." You basically talk about winning us a championship. So I'm saying they shouldn't get too distracted with that. I think, like you said, they should stick with Ty Lue. I think Ty Lue is a great fit over there. But I guess in the conversation that's going to come up later, I think Ty Lue's name is going to be a hot name on the market coming up, even with how the Clippers just went out.
He might be a hot name in his own market that he's in right now, but we'll talk about that later. So on the recaps, I want to give you props. I didn't pick my team that I grew up rooting for. I did not pick the Miami Heat to come out of the Eastern Conference. I didn't like the way that they looked against Boston during the regular season and said for the same exact reason I picked Miami to beat Milwaukee, I will pick Boston to beat Miami. Series is 2-1. Miami really took it to Boston. They actually came from behind in game 1 and game 2. And in doing so, they really kind of punked Boston a little bit. Now Boston came guns a-blazing for that game 3. And even that was still close and winnable for Miami late in the end. But I'm going to have to say that I'm kind of changing my pick based on what I've seen and going with the Miami Heat to come out of the Eastern Conference because of that, even though I feel like Boston has a little more talent, whether it's Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Marcus Smart, for some reason, became a very viable three-point shooter out of nowhere. So there's that. But, I mean, I just like from what I've seen from Miami and that culture that Spoelstra's put together. Also, interesting stat, every time Eric Spoelstra's gone up 2-0 in a series, he's never lost. So.
A wise man once said, when the facts change, so does my opinion. So I don't blame you for making your change. I think like I said, I picked them because I think that it's going to maybe come down. I thought they were two solid teams. It's going to come down to who can kind of get me a bucket late. I like Jason Tatum. I like Kemba, but I just think that what Jimmy Butler has shown us throughout this playoffs is that, it may even last year in the playoffs a little bit, what Jimmy Butler has showed us over his career is that he can be that guy to get you that bucket. And I was just, part of it's because I'm in Miami too. But anyways, I just thought that Jimmy Butler would be the guy who can get you that shot. And I think even in these first couple of games, he's kind of shown us that. I know Bam had that big block, which is a crazy block. It's like the block heard around the world in game 1.
I think that's probably might be the greatest postseason block I've ever seen. Like even bigger than the LeBron block on Iguodala. That was insane.
Yeah. So that block was crazy. But I'm not sure if it was the end of game 1 or game 2 when Jimmy Butler.
Game 1.
Yeah, not the block, but the three that Jimmy Butler hit after he pump fake and kind of went to the side. He was kind of fade. I'm not sure if that was in the game 1 or game 2, but Jimmy Butler hits a big 3 to kind of win one of those games, and that's just kind of like what I expected out of them. So I know Boston kind of got into a little argument and they came back strong in game 2. Gordon Hayward's back, so game 4 is going to be a little more interesting. But I just think, like I said, Jimmy Butler's still going to be.
Gordon Hayward was even, when he played in game 3, like they looked like a better team with him, and even knowing the facts I knew with him coming in, I don't know if I would have said it changed much in my opinion with him there, but it did a little bit, even though I'm going to Miami now. But, yeah.
It changed a little bit because it adds another score for him. It's just another person who can kind of get a bucket for him. But I still, like I said, I'm going to stick with Miami. I think, like I said, Jimmy Butler's just that guy right now.
The other interesting thing, too, with Miami, all right, well, I want to stick to Jimmy Butler first. I'm not stick, but go to Jimmy Butler first. In all of his stops, the last time the Chicago Bulls were in the playoffs, Jimmy Butler was on the team. The first time in over a decade that the Timberwolves made the playoffs, and also the last time they've been to the playoffs, Jimmy Butler was on the team. The farthest run Philadelphia has made since having Allen Iverson on the team in the playoffs, Jimmy Butler was on the team. Miami Heat make their first conference finals since 2014, Jimmy Butler's on the team. So that just speaks enough to what this dude offers as a basketball player when he's in your market. I am done hearing all these opinions about him being a possible locker room cancer and things like that. This dude is a winner, and he makes your team a winning team. He has a proven track record of it now. Not only that, but the interesting thing here is at a lot of times during these playoffs, he hasn't even been the Heat's leading scorer. Even like in this series specific, Goran Dragic, who's on the last year of his deal, has been the Heat's. He had 29 the last game they played, and then you have Tyler Hero, a rookie who shoots like he's a veteran. This dude takes shots with the utmost confidence. You have a sniper in Duncan Robinson, who, again speaking to Miami's culture and being able to build players. Duncan Robinson was a Division III basketball player who spent a year at Michigan and then was in the G League and in the Sky Force for the Miami Heat. And now is a starting two guard for them. Like they have so much going on there, which makes it even more of like I could see them really doing something. And I'm with you now on the other side of this too. I hadn't picked them all year. I'm picking them like as wise man once said, when the facts change, so does my opinion. The Lakers are gonna win it all. But like they even and we talked about how they're on this run now, and we still feel like they could add another piece. Like even with what they have now going against LeBron James and Anthony Davis in the NBA Finals, not to get ahead of myself, but they could even give them a run for their money.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, I think Goran Dragic deserves a lot of credit. He not only has he been their leading scorer sometimes, he's also had big fourth quarters for them in a couple times throughout this playoff run. Hero deserves a lot of credit. I think he had 16 in the quarter, maybe last game or something like that.
Yeah.
So he's been playing at his mind. Same thing with Duncan Robinson. He's been the knockdown shooter that they need. Bam deserves a lot of credit. We just talked about the block, but Bam, all the things that Bam Adebayo is doing for them and things like that. So yeah, like I said, the team is solid, and like I said, when both teams are kind of solid like that, because Boston's a solid team too. And they're well rounded too, and they have their scorers and things like that too. To me, it comes down to who's going to give me that bucket when the game's on the line. When it's fourth quarter, last 5 minutes, palms are sweating and things like that. I think that Jimmy Butler is just going to be that guy to kind of get them there. As far as the Lakers matchup, like you said, not to get too far ahead, I think it's going to be interesting. I think that's going to come down to another coaching duo. I mean, who knows LeBron better than Eric Spoelstra? So let's think about that. So it's gonna be interesting to see what he kind of does with that. And then I think Bam and AD are gonna maybe have to. They're gonna be matched up that series. So how well Bam plays defense on AD is gonna be, I think, a big thing in that series too. So I guess we shouldn't get too far ahead right now. But I think that series, if it gets to that, it's gonna be a great series.
Game 4 pick. Who you got?
That's interesting. I'm gonna stick with Miami. I think Miami's Miami's gonna need this one. I think Miami is gonna need this one to kind of. We don't want to let Boston get too much confidence. They had that little argument. They had a good game last game. Gordon Hayward comes back, like you said, he kind of creates a little bit difference for them. But I think if Boston gets that, their confidence kind of skyrockets. I mean, I still think Miami has a chance to win it, but I think if Miami really wants to not turn this into too much of a series, I think they should come out and kind of handle their business. They haven't been kind of punched in the face too much in this playoffs. They got like one loss, maybe two. I think
They have now 2 losses.
That was their second loss. I think they'll be able to bounce back. And I think even like Boston deserves a lot of credit for that game 3, but I think Miami just kind of didn't play their best game either in that game. So I think Miami, after having that kind of rough game, I think they'll be able to bounce back and get this game 4.
Well, it's interesting because they've literally played from behind all 3 games so far, with Boston only winning that game 3 and that one being a tight one at the end too. So I want to see if they're going to be able to make adjustments where they're not going to have to play from behind for majority of the game. I do agree. I think they are gonna find a way to take this. I actually have this series ending in 6, but I'm going to pick Miami to win Game 4. But I pretty much agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like I said, Boston wins this next one. They're gonna have a lot of confidence. They probably feel like, sometimes teams feel like you need that. Sometimes teams feel like you need to get a tech to wake people up. You need to get into argument to wake people up. So I think if they win, you think like, all right, we won game 4, but game 3, but they come back and win game 4, they're gonna be like, all right, we're on to something. So I think that's kind of gonna build their confidence. It's gonna make it a longer series. Like I said, I'll probably still pick Miami, but I think if Boston ends up getting this game 4, it'd probably go maybe like 7.
Right. So let's head over to the Western Conference because right now we have a Western Conference Finals between the Lakers and the Denver Nuggets. First time these two have matched up since 2010, or was that 2009?
I think it was 2009, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, whatever. But both of those years the Lakers won a championship, so
Yeah.
foreshadowing. We got to talk about how these two teams got to the Western Conference Finals. I want to start with the Lakers against the Houston Rockets, and we talked about that series in depth for the games we got to see. We didn't talk about how that ended. So Lakers won that in 5 with, Houston Rockets convincingly beating them game 1, making all of us say this could be a 7-game series. It wasn't. The Rockets, going out in 5, they went down swinging for the most part. There were points in the games where they just got blown. There were I know game 2 and game 3 were closed down the stretch and then got opened up literally within the last couple of minutes of the game. It might have been game 2 was close all the way down, and then game 3 got opened up late. But the Lakers beat them, and we got to talk about how they did it. Russell Westbrook just really. He started to look like he was getting into a rhythm a little bit, but, he just was never at 100% in this series with that high quad strain, and you got to wonder if it would have looked a little different had he not had to deal with that.
Yeah, the series is interesting to me. I think, first of all, the Lakers deserve a lot of credit. The way the defense that they have been able to play in the first series, stopping Portland's crazy offense that was going crazy coming into that series. I think to stop the Rockets offense too. I think the Lakers deserve a lot of credit. I think some of the changes they have made have just been phenomenal. I think I don't know who said it, but someone on the Rockets said that honestly it just got to the point where the Lakers were just frustrating them. And that's kind of like what I was saying about the Rockets model. They kind of need to switch it up a little bit. Everyone knows what they want to do. In the first series against the OKC, they shot 53s.
They were very predictable in the series, for sure.
Yeah, they were kind of very predictable. LA was able to kind of get them down to only 33s. So that's how focused on the 3-point line that the Lakers were. So that kind of threw them off. Is a lot of those players, besides Westbrook and Harden, kind of, don't want to dribble the ball. So it's they're just playing off those other two creating for them. So I think the Lakers just attack hard on closeout and kind of force people to do the shooters to kind of do things that they kind of don't want to do. And I think like the guy, I forgot who said, like I said, the Lakers just made it tough for them. Well, on the Rockets side, I feel like the Rockets had chances in this series. You just brought it up, game 2. They have that big fourth quarter. They score 40 points. They go into the fourth quarter with momentum. Russ picks up a foul at the end of the third quarter. He gets into 5 fouls. Mike D'Antoni decides to leave him in, and the Lakers see that. They leave LeBron in. They're just having Westbrook switch on to LeBron, and then LeBron's just driving by him because he doesn't want to pick up a foul. That kind of killed their momentum kind of down the stretch of that game. They were kind of never able to get it back. You think about game 3, it's tied, I think 82-82 or 84-84 after the third quarter. And then the Lakers just blow it open in the fourth quarter. After that, in game 4 and 5, they kind of just – then the game 4, they kind of show some life. But those 2 games was kind of like the person said, the Lakers kind of just wore them down. They couldn't do what they wanted to do. And it's really only one thing they want to do is shoot threes. So once that kind of got taken out, they kind of got frustrated. So I think the Rockets had their chances. I think maybe if a couple things work out differently for them, or maybe a couple different adjustments or things like that at the end of those games. Game 3 and game 4, the series looks different. Game 3 and game 2, you think about it, even if they lose game 2, they play better in that fourth quarter. In game 3, it's 2-1. The series looks a lot different. They're not going into that fourth game feeling kind of beat down. And also, I think Rondo deserves a lot of credit. I think Rondo was the biggest difference in the series. We always talked about how the Lakers need that third star, someone to step up. A lot of people think it's going to be Kuzma and things like that. But I think that series, it was Rondo. Rondo's hitting step-back threes in game 3. Just a lot of threes and things like that. He's making other people better. He's out there making Kuzma better. I think Rondo, we talked about it being playoff Rondo just emerged, and that kind of frustrated the Rockets a lot. I think that was something they kind of was expecting, especially after how Rondo kind of played in game one.
Yeah, and I mean, when we were recapping those early games too, that's definitely something I brought up. It's something that we brought up, a long time ago during the regular season about how he was going to be the X factor for the Lakers, and since he's come back, he really has been that guy. Um, I mean, I think one of the other things that I thought kind of, hurt the Rockets in this was that they lost Daniel House. He had the unauthorized guest in his room, and they told him he basically had the quarantine or whatever. He ended up leaving, and they didn't have him for that series. He was a key piece for them. I don't know if they would have won that series with him. I really probably wouldn't pick them to win it either way. But I feel like it would have been more frustrating for the Lakers had he been in there because he really was a key piece for them.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, if a couple of different things worked out for the Rockets, I think it would have been different. That's why I see a lot of Rocket fans maybe kind of, I wouldn't say panicking, but they're kind of ready to blow it up. I think Harden said after the game that he feels like they're one piece away. I'm gonna write a paper on it because I feel like I agree with them. They might be one piece away. I mean, a coaching change and maybe one piece away. So I guess we'll be looking out for that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree too. I don't know how they would make it happen, but I know Kevin Love has been a guy that's been talked about as kind of getting him in there to be that stretch five for them, for their small ball lineup, which I like a lot. I think he fits what they're trying to do extremely well. Plus, as a fan, I've always wanted to see him and Russ team back up again in the pros. With what they were able to do together at UCLA, so that would be cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think they should have been trying to trade Capella for Kevin Love if that was possible during the line. I know a lot of people, not saying that Covington was bad, but I think when they were thinking about trading Capella, I thought Kevin Love should have been someone that was really on their mind.
Well, I like if you could find a way to keep Covington, if you keep Covington and get Kevin Love, like by all means do it. I don't know how they're gonna be. I don't even like without it. I don't know how they're gonna be able to get Kevin Love. I think like he would be the perfect piece for them though. So if Cleveland want to do Houston a solid just for the fans' sake, by all means, go ahead and do that. As far as the coaching thing goes, we talked about this a year ago. Before we were doing video, because Kenny Smith was a guy that we talked about because we knew he was looking for a job, and I think as a championship guard, especially in the Houston franchise, he is a guy that can kind of go at Russ and Harden like I've been here and done this before. He shows you that he strategizes well for games with the things he does at TNT and breaking down the game film and everything like that. And I mean, we've seen guys go from the TV role to the coaching role and flourish. He's definitely a guy I think is gone enough time where you could see that happen. I think another interesting one would be to bring back Jeff Van Gundy. I don't know how realistic that is because his name comes up all the time and he just never gets a job. But, he's another guy I think he's had success as a coach, whether it was with the Knicks, going to NBA Finals with the Knicks and all their playoff runs as an assistant and as a head coach. The playoff runs he had in Houston back when he had Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady and, things like that. So he's another one that I think could be in there and, they could do well under him. But, we'll see. I still got to look at the other coaching candidates. Oh, Sam Cassell. Sam Cassell is another guy I think would be perfect. Sam Cassell has paid his dues 1,000 times over and should have got a head coaching job. Doc Rivers really has two guys who should be head coaches on his bench, and we'll get more into that later. But for that, those are my three guys I think should be looked at heavily for the Rockets job.
Same. I agree with all three names that you brought up. I think all of them be solid, no matter who they pick. They're all Houston people. I think that's something they need to get in there, get someone that's from Houston and things like that. They all have been proven. Maybe Kenny Smith not as much because he hasn't coached, but like you said, he has shown things that on TNT that how he strategizes about games and things like that. So I agree with all of them, and like you said, I think those are the top three candidates. I think it's one of their jobs to lose.
Yeah, for sure, man. Now I gotta get we gotta talk about that other series in the West. The Clippers were up 3-1 on the Denver Nuggets. Expected them to close it out. I know I'm frustrated too. Expected them to close it out. Not only did they blow a 3-1 lead, but they blew a 3-1 lead while being up in these games by double digits. their first closeout game, they were up 16 entering the fourth quarter. So number one, because we had to get into this, we did an Instagram live, about a month ago, and somebody was in there, shaming Doc, and I thought he was bugging. I still think he's bugging. Doc Rivers is a championship head coach, plenty of playoff experience, but I also can't deny the facts. He is worth about 24% of teams in the NBA that have blown a 3-1 lead. He's done it not once, not twice, but 3 times. With that being said, I think he is at fault for this happening, but he is not to blame for them not coming out of this series. I say that like this. It's his fault because the clip with the, allowing the load management and everything like that, guys not playing in games. Also, the Clippers really went into this bubble on like some Hollywood stuff, with guys coming and going as they please. Lou Williams left and that whole debacle. Montrezl Harrell was gone for a really long time. They were taking shots. Paul George and Patrick Beverley were taking shots at Dame and Siege, really Dame in one of the seeding games. They just kind of were on their high horse a little bit. So that's why he definitely should have ran a tighter ship throughout the regular season and specifically in the bubble to make sure that they were ready to go for this. And I don't think that they were. The one interesting thing that I did hear after the series was over was that guys were asking to be checked out because they were tired. And this was in game 7. So that kind of lets you know all you need to know there. And then the other thing here that I want to get to as far as the players go, what have we been saying the entire time that these playoffs have been going on? Paul George had like 2 good games in this entire postseason. Paul George has now made his name as a guy who can't perform in the playoffs. He couldn't do it in Oklahoma City. He hasn't done it with the Clippers. And outside of that original run he had in Indiana, he couldn't do it in Indiana either.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can't blame Doc too much for the load management thing because if you look at it, Kawhi's coming off a season where he did load management and kind of led to a championship. So you kind of seen the results of maybe how load management could work. So maybe you kind of run with it. I think Paul George does deserve a lot of credit. I think the tired thing is interesting because they looked tired at the end of that game 7. That when Paul George is hitting shots off the top of the backboard, I remember watching them in game 7. It's just like the Clippers can't make a shot. They just can't make a shot. And like you said, I think they maybe came on their high horse. A lot of people, there was that video go around of everyone kind of picking them to win a championship. And I think they kind of came, like you said, on their high horse, whether it's people leaving or things like that. They talking junk to other players and things like that. They just came feeling like they are the team to beat. And they low-key haven't proven to us that they are the team to beat. They have the talent. We all thought there was the talent for them to be the team to beat. But it's like they haven't really proved to us. And we thought like, okay, they're playing not to knock the Nuggets or Dallas, like they're playing Nuggets, they're playing Dallas. But we were all waiting for that LA versus LA matchup, and we thought that they'll wake up by then. I thought that Kawhi would probably be good enough to get them through those 2 series, even without
Paul George. I wanted to talk about too. Not to cut you off, I'm just saying like the Kawhi you talk about him being good enough to get him through. He wasn't.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Even he looked tired, can't make a shot at the end of that game 7. I thought he'd be good enough to, and even the team, not just Kawhi, but like the team, be good enough to kind of get them through. Lou Will didn't play great either. So Lou Will saw another.
Lou Will was not good throughout this entire time.
Which is interesting because he said he didn't want to come, so maybe that had something to do with it. But like you said, but they were like kind of maybe crowned themselves before they were really it, and a lot of people maybe contributed to it, saying that they were kind of the best team. I thought they were the most talented team. I mean, that's kind of hard to deny. I think Doc has to go for this reason. This is his second time blowing a 2-1 lead in the conference with a chance to go to the conference finals just on the Clippers. Like, I think he's been there long enough where it's kind of like, okay, if you want to run it back with him, then it's like he said, it was their first year together and things like that. But I think he's been there long enough. This is his second time blowing it. I think it kind of is what it is right now. But and then Ty Lue was there. We talked about Ty Lue before. I think he's someone who came in kind of in the same situation where he took over for David Blatt after they kind of lost in the finals and things like that. He kind of wasn't able to get it done, and he was kind of that piece to kind of get them over the top. I think this could be like another situation like that. I mean, not saying that Doc's a bad coach. Maybe just in LA it hasn't kind of been working out like that. So I think maybe they should consider going on to Ty Lue.
Well, I mean, I feel like that could happen if they move on from Doc. I don't think that they should move on from Doc. I think they should run it back with him. They've all got things they need to work on, and like they had everything going for them. You got Jerry West in the front office. You got Doc, a championship head coach. You have Ty Lue, a championship head coach who's coaching on your bench. Sam Cassell, who people view as a head coach, who's also coaching on your bench. You have Kawhi Leonard, multiple-time NBA champion, Paul George, a bona fide scorer in this league, Patrick Beverly, all-defensive team player, Lou Williams, multiple-time six-man, Montrezl Harrell just won his first six-man, a bunch of shooters. You got everything working for you, and they just couldn't close it out. I think the conversation for Kawhi really changes now because Kawhi went into LA very spicy, coming at LeBron James and with the commercials and everything. And it's the two greatest words in all the sports. Game 7. Game 7 comes through. You expect your stars to perform all-time performances. This is what makes guys great. And Kawhi has been great, but he was not that guy. He did not show up at all. And he's going to have, once that next season comes around, he's got a lot of making up to do because the opinion on him is looking very shaky right now after that.
Yeah, definitely. I think he might not take too much of a hit because he's played great. He's played great kind of throughout the playoffs. And it's not his
first time in that situation, though.
But if you think about it, they were in that Game 7 last year against Philly, and he kind of played good. He hit the game winner. So it's not like – like I was about to say, it's not like he's never been in a situation before. You compare it to last year, like I just said, he was kind of just in that situation. He kind of showed up. This year,
he had everything going against him, though. That's what I mean when I say he's never been in that situation.
I definitely get you. He's never been being that guy with the pressure on him. Yeah, definitely. I don't know what happened with the Clippers. They kind of just fell apart. That's kind of why I was saying, like, it might be a coaching change they might have to do because, like, they had everything. I mean, you just run it back and you have another year under your belt. Like, sure, that could work too. But it's like they had everything. How did they not win it? How did they not make it to the conference finals? How did they lose to the Nuggets? It's just it's crazy. I think you could run it back. Like I said, they have everything. But I think that's the only change I could see here. If you want to make a change, is coaching. That's kind of why I was like, maybe you do consider going to Ty Lue. But as far as Kawhi, I think he's going to take some of the blame, but not as much. I think a lot of it's going to go to PG. I think a lot of it's going to go to Doc. I think a lot of it's going to go to Lou Will. But I think that's a lot of it's that kind of off of Kawhi kind of played good. That maybe was one of like his worst games out of the whole run. So it's like a lot of them. Lou Will wasn't playing good the whole time. Paul George had maybe 1 or 2 games. So it's like maybe he does take a little hit, but they're gonna look at it like he can't maybe do everything, but maybe that's why he takes a little hit because if you're that superstar, then you gotta show up.
Yeah, you gotta get the blame shouldered. I mean, if that was LeBron James in that situation, the media would be scorching him right now. So you gotta call it like it is, man. And I mean, the other thing too, I haven't heard too much about coaching. I know people have been making they've kind of been, stimulating what could happen, assuming what could happen. I know that the Clippers plan on doing some retooling. I've heard that, since they lost, they're going to try and go after Derrick Rose, which I actually like a lot for them is, whether he's a starter or a bench role, depending on what they want to do with Pat Bev. Also, I think I've heard that the only untouchable guy on that roster right now is Kawhi Leonard. So this is going to be very interesting for them going forward. Because you went all in for this. You gave up a player who the front office and the coach is very high on in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to get Paul George. You gave up a ton of draft picks because you expected to win a championship this year, and you did not even get to a conference finals. There's like a curse on the Clippers or something, man. I don't know.
There was the rumor about the Clippers curse. What are they 0-8 now, and a chance to make it to the conference finals. Yeah, like I said, I don't know where they would go. I mean, definitely Kawhi's probably the most untouchable because of the way Paul George has played in this series. I think if they could upgrade, maybe they try to get rid of him. I think Paul George's stock is kind of very, very low right now. I think it's the lowest maybe it's ever been before, if you really think about it. So I don't know where they're kind of going to go from here. If you do trade Paul George, where do you kind of go? Maybe Kevin Love's another name. Maybe you want to get another stretch big in there. I don't know. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. The only change I really think they could make is maybe a coaching change, but who knows? Paul, I'm pretty sure a lot of teams maybe still might take Paul George, but it all depends on what they kind of want to get back from him. Like I said, his stock is kind of at an all-time low right now. I don't think any team that has kind of maybe wants him right now as their main superstar.
Yeah, he hasn't even shown to be that guy as a number two as we've seen so far this run arounds. I mean, like Stephen A said something interesting where he could be like what Dwight Howard was after that failed run with the Lakers the first time, and that would be rough. So, we'll see what goes there. Now, we do have this conference finals. We're going into halftime. It's 50-61 Denver, about 39 seconds left in the second quarter. 63-50, excuse me. Denver just scored. With the Lakers being up 2-0, they torched Denver game one. Wasn't close at all. Then game two came down to the wire. Anthony Davis hits this big time shot with like a second left past to Rondo. He admits that the ball is actually supposed to go to LeBron, but Rondo was just had his eye on him and he's able to make it. I have this series probably ending about 6. I think Denver needs to win this, and it looks like they are. We'll see things change because they looked like they were in a position to win game 2, and that didn't have to happen after AD did what he did. I mean, like I don't know where to go with it, man. Like the Lakers just look dominant number one, and number two with the way Anthony Davis has looked. When the Lakers win the championship, yeah, I said when. Bearing anything catastrophic, knock on wood. Is LeBron gonna win Finals MVP? Because the Anthony Davis is balling, and LeBron actually looks like he's taking that D Wade role in Miami. Was all right. I'm gonna step back. You do your thing.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be interesting. I think, like you said, in this Nuggets series, I think it probably goes 6. Like you said, they need this game. They really needed that last game, but they definitely need this game. I think. I don't want to count the Nuggets out too much. So, I mean, they have a chance, but I think it'll be over in 6. I think they win this one, probably lose the next one, end up down 3-1 again. Push it to a game 6, and that's probably where it'll probably end. I was kind of thinking that too. After I think that's a lot on a lot of people's minds, especially after AD kind of just hit that game winner. It's like AD, when it comes to the finals, who and how much? I think the question really is because like how much does that hurt Bron's legacy? I think that's the question because he's in the GOAT talk. A lot of people think another championship will kind of put him over Michael Jordan. But if he gets another championship and he's not the Finals MVP, how much does that kind of hurt that GOAT talk between him and Michael Jordan? I think that's going to be interesting to me. I think AD has a great chance of winning Finals MVP. I think looking at it right now, I would probably pick AD. But it also is going to be interesting to see if they get to the finals and Bron kind of goes for it. So that's going to be interesting. I think right now, like I said, if I had to pick, I would go to AD.
Yeah, I'm on the same wave. I don't know if it hurts it. Well, I mean, in my eyes, that conversation's over. I don't think there's anything he can do to supplant Michael Jordan as far as GOAT talk goes. I've always said I think LeBron is a more skilled basketball player than Michael Jordan. As far as GOAT and what greatness is and things like that, he can't supplant Jordan in that sense. But I mean, I don't think it has any bearing on where he's at with it. For me anyway, I think he's at where he's at, and that just is what it is. So I don't think it's a big deal. Also, if he really wanted to step it up, I feel like he could. Like I said, I feel like he's just taking that back seat. Like AD, you go be great. It's all right. We need you to do this, and that's cool. But if he wanted to step it up, I feel like he could, and I think we still are going to get those performances from him. It's going to be interesting because I think probably midway through the finals, we're going to start to have it could be a debate. Like, I think they could both be that good where it could be a debate. Like, okay, who do we pick to win it between these two?
I think to me, what is going to what it really might come down to is if you think about it, we talk about the Heat matchup. They end up in a matchup with the Heat. Like I said, I expect maybe Bam to be on AD, and that puts Jimmy Butler on Bron. I just think who's going to maybe struggle more with that other, like that great defender kind of on the other side. I mean, you kind of expect both of them to step up, but it's a chance that maybe, Jimmy Butler makes it a little tough for Bron. Bam makes it a little tough for AD. In that case, I would say I would probably go Braun because if you think about it, Braun's kind of been here before and done that. It's gonna be the pressure low key probably be more on AD. He's been the main guy this whole time. He's never been in the finals, and his pressure's gonna be the pressure's gonna be on him to kind of keep it up once he gets to the finals and kind of maybe not fold in the finals. But then you're gonna have Bam on the other side, and maybe he ends up maybe pushing it too hard, trying to prove a point or something like that, and then Bam's still over there kind of making it real tough for him. I think Braun would be able to. He's kind of been there, done that, and he'll be able to kind of show up even with Jimmy Butler on him.
Yeah. Well, when you first said that, I was thinking of in the same. In that case, I'd probably pick LeBron to win it. But going back to what you had said earlier about matching up with Miami and who knows LeBron better than Eric Spoelstra, I gotta think that he's gonna have a great game plan for LeBron James. And I feel like Anthony Davis is still gonna ball, but I feel like having Bam Adebayo on him is gonna present problems to him because of the defender that Adebayo is. But I just think the game plan is going to be centered more around LeBron James, and that's going to give Anthony Davis that opening to probably take that award. It's crazy we even talking about this right now.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think the way Eric Spoelstra shapes his plan, if they end up making it there, is what's gonna be the interesting point. Because like you said, he can shape his whole plan around LeBron, and but I think if that's I get your point. I think he might end up doing that because I think that kind of points to how great he thinks Bam is as a defender. He probably thinks that Bam can kind of keep AD contained. We got to kind of maybe worry more about Bron, just maybe the kind of matchups that he can bring. And like you said, that maybe can give AD the chance to maybe go off and go for it. But I still think Bron's kind of been there. He's seen every type of defense. He played against the Spurs, all type of. So he's seen the Warriors. He's seen all different type of defenses. So I think he'll be able to figure it out. I just think AD's maybe never been there before, and he may maybe fold a little bit under pressure if I had to pick one.
Yeah, man. It's definitely gonna be an interesting one to see. You gotta see how this Lakers Nuggets thing goes. Want to give a shout out to the Nuggets too, though, man, because that's a young core that's been very fun to watch. There was a big thing about what Michael Porter Jr. said after that loss to the Clippers, and they ended up winning after that. So I mean, and he wasn't wrong. It's just more so like you got to know your role and things like that. But I'm not even trying to get back into that. But that's a team that's going to be fun to watch in the coming years. I think they got a title in the future, not now, but yeah.
Yeah. You think about it in the future, Michael Porter's probably only get better. He's gonna be that three guard. That's kind of maybe the only spot that's been a little for them. So with him kind of stepping up, but then Jeremy Grant's been great for them too. So I think the Nuggets deserve a huge shout out. I mean, that Game 7 was them winning that series was one of the most shocking things I think I've seen definitely in a while. It's like
First,
not.
first team in decades to come back from 3-1 twice.
Yeah, definitely. I think they deserve a lot of credit, like I said, and that's why I said I'm never counting them out again. So I think they got a shot with the Lakers, but I'm gonna pick 6. I think they're a good team. That's why I gave them 1, and I'm never counting them out again. That's why I'm giving them 2. So I think they'll probably lose 6, but they deserve a lot of credit. And I think what they show now, it's only gonna be up from here. Like I said, with the young players getting better, and I think Jamal Murray, after maybe this playoff run, maybe he can take it to the next level and just take them to the next level. Like you said, they probably got a championship in them in a couple of years, especially with Bron kind of getting older. The Lakers they still have AD, but it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of fill that team out around with just AD by himself after kind of LeBron leaves. And then who knows what's happening with the Clippers. They said that PG and Kawhi aren't 100% committed, or they haven't committed to because they were only there for 2 years. So who knows what's going to happen with them in the future.
Yeah, they got that opt out after that next year.
So yeah, I think the Nuggets are definitely a team to watch out for.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man, for sure. You got anything else? We got anything else?
Uh, no, I think that's it. I mean, the WNBA playoff
Playoff start.
started. Shout out to the Suns. We had Carol on here the other day. They knocked off LA, who I had picked to win the WNBA championship. So they won game one against Asia Wilson in Las Vegas, the MVP. Shout out to Asia Wilson for winning the WNBA MVP and things like that. So, yeah, shout out to the women out there hooping. I think Seattle and them are playing right now. So, shout out to them.
Yeah, man. If you're a fan of basketball, you know if you can't catch the NBA games, like I said, if you're really a fan of basketball, make sure you go watch those games because those girls are out here doing some amazing things. And the Sun, you know, they're trying to get back to that WNBA finals, and they look damn good doing it last year, even though they ended up losing, you know, in a tough one in the finals. So you know, it's Rich, it's Kayson. We got a lot more interviews coming for you guys and pieces. Like Kayson said, he plans on putting something out soon. But you know, it's Rich, it's Kayson, and we will see you guys soon. Peace.